a young, vivacious woman's drive to survive a life of loss and dependency. What was about to happen next blindsided me, my family, friends, and the entire community. We learned quickly just how fragile we really are and how life can change in just a blink of an eye without any prior notice. As I lay there helplessly, flat on my stomach, the cold, frostbitten ground persisted to press against every inch of my bare skin. I cautiously opened my eyes. An unusual numbness seeped throughout my body. I was breathless, dazed, and confused. I heard voices in the distance calling out my name, but I was not sure where I was or how I had gotten there. Breathlessly, I called out for help, but my voice was just a whisper. I tried to move. My body was numb and frozen. I was trapped in my own skin. The thought of whether I was dead or alive continuously forced its way into my mind. As I struggled to take my next breath, I wondered if I'd ever see my family and friends again. I could not remember the last time I told my parents or brothers I love you. And my nephew was so young. Would he remember his auntie tomorrow? Who would be my friend's maid of honor for her wedding? And would those last moments with my friends and family be enough memories for a lifetime? The chaos grew and festered in the air as people scurried all around me, searching and searching. But no one discovered my weak and motionless body tucked securely between the bed and the cab of the pickup truck. As I struggled to take my next breath, a soothing and comforting voice in my head calmly reminded me to breathe, just to breathe. At this point, my body was quickly shutting down. I knew something was terribly wrong because every second that passed by, the harder each breath became. The craziness didn't seem so crazy anymore. My anxiousness began to mellow. Thoughts and images danced through my mind of what had just transpired. It all seemed like a horrible nightmare, but would prove to be reality. Just minutes earlier, I was throwing a bachelor party for my future sister-in-law. It was supposed to be a night of bonding and building new memories, something to reminisce about for years to come. Not realizing that March 16th would now become a day of loss and grievance for me. A day that I would never look back on happily again. Earlier that day, my fiance at the time had offered to be my designated driver for the night. I knew we would be drinking, so I made the decision because it was the responsible thing to do at the time. As planned, my designated driver showed up later with two other friends. We all piled in the single cab pickup truck and headed home. I remember very clearly singing along with the radio and being only minutes away from home when I realized my life was in jeopardy. My designated driver started driving erratically at a high rate of speed. We approached a bend in the road when a critical decision was made that would profoundly change my life forever. He decided to pass another vehicle carrying three other passengers on the right-hand shoulder of the road at approximately 85 miles an hour. We began to fishtail. He counter-steered, but the truck lost traction and it was soon out of control. I recall screaming out his name, grabbing anything around me to brace myself, closing my eyes and just trying to prepare myself for the ride and what was about to happen next. One of my last memories was seeing the gravel on the shoulder of the road as it consumed us and sucked the truck in. We went up and over the ditch, rolling 3 to 4 times before smashing into a tree. The truck landed upside down, and sometime during the impact, I was ejected out of the vehicle. The truck was crushed like a tin can. We were just minutes away from home, less than 3 miles. After what seemed like an eternity, I felt the warmth of someone's hand against my left cheek, attempting to protect my face from the icy earth that I declared as a temporary bed. I remember feeling a sense of security, but yet a little hesitation and uncertainty. I wasn't sure if I was imagining it all or not. Cautiously, I opened my eyes. I sighed with relief. I am alive. As I attempted to speak, my voice was extremely fatigued and exhausted. My body was still numb and lifeless. Drained and jaded, I closed my eyes again and fell into a deep childlike slumber. The fire and police departments arrived at the scene and were very cautious about moving me due to a possible neck injury and causing more harm. The slightest error in judgment could have taken my life. With an accident of this magnitude, life-saving treatment takes over, and it becomes mandatory for medics to make a primary assessment to treat injuries by priority, with the most life-threatening ones first. So, as I lay there like a wet noodle, broken and exposed, my clothes were being cut and torn off me to expose my entire body, so my injuries were revealed and could be assessed. I had no idea that I was being stripped of the independence, dignity, and the modesty I held within. I had no idea that this was only the beginning of a new life where dignity and privacy would become non-existent. They did successfully stabilize me. I was then transported by the Flight for Life helicopter to Freedom Memorial Hospital in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Remarkably, I was the only one seriously injured out of the 4 of us. Of course, my designated driver, who had so carelessly and irresponsibly put 6 other lives in danger, not to mention the innocent victims sharing the same roads with us that night, was completely unharmed. His blood alcohol level was 0.21, more than 2 times the legal limit. He was arrested for driving under the influence and later charged with first-degree reckless endangerment and causing bodily harm while intoxicated. The next time I opened my eyes, I was in the hospital in the intensive care unit. My family was there standing over my motionless body with tears in their eyes and despair covering their faces. That strange numbness continued to flow throughout my body. I still had no idea that I had injured C3, 5, and 6 of my vertebrae of my spinal cord, which meant that I was paralyzed from the chest down, also known as quadriplegia. I went from being a typical, independent 24-year-old woman to a young woman who would now spend the rest of her life confined to a wheelchair, independent on others. I was stripped away from my livelihood, career, dignity, pride, and most importantly, my independence. It would have been easy to quit, struggle after struggle, obstacle after obstacle. But by the grace of God, I chose to fight instead. At this point, I could not help but wonder what I had done in my life that would make God so angry with me to allow this to happen. I spent a lot of time questioning whether I had the strength to survive another day in this condition. My relationship with God was strained, but I found myself seeking Him out even more. Asking why. God, why did I survive that day? God, what is my purpose now? How do I find a new normal? How do I face the world in this capacity? Do I walk in hope, or do I stumble around, resigning myself to the chaos? My heart was aching for answers, but for the moment, my questions would go unanswered. The simple everyday capabilities I once took for granted, such as brushing my teeth, writing my own name, combing my hair, applying my makeup, standing on my own 2 feet, walking, having the function to go to the bathroom on my own, and most of all, breathing, all had new meaning to me. I spent the next 2 months in the hospital with intense occupational, physical, and recreational therapy. I felt like a child. I had to relearn everything and accept the things that I had lost, possibly forever. My designated driver was not a stranger or some fly-by-night relationship. He was my high school sweetheart, my junior prom date, a best friend, and my one and only fiance. We met in the 7th grade. Our real dating relationship began when we were sophomores in high school. I remember being attracted to his kind heart and fun personality. As the years went on, I would learn a different side of him. We spent a lot of time at his house water skiing, jet skiing, and snowmobiling throughout the years. As I look back now, I realize it didn't matter what we did. There was always alcohol involved. At the time, I would have said our lives were perfect. I had no idea just how unhealthy our relationship really was. I remember on numerous occasions telling him to slow down. You're going to hurt yourself or someone else. Never did I think it would be me. I thought if I was with him, I had control over the situation, when I really had none. My family and friends saw his true colors and encouraged me to get out. Sadly, I wouldn't realize it until it was too late. He started becoming verbally and physically abusive, and for some reason, I allowed this boy to steal my value and self-worth. Every promise he had made to me, from practicing total sobriety to never drinking and driving again, kept going unanswered. I knew I needed to make some changes in order to find some peace in my life again. Enough was enough. I finally asked God a simple question. I finally asked God a simple question. God, would I be with him if I wasn't in a wheelchair? And God's answer was loud and clear. Absolutely not. With that said, one of my caregivers who witnessed his neglect firsthand had offered to move with me. When I told my ex I was moving out, he laughed at me and said that if I left, I was leaving any financial help from him behind. I knew it wouldn't be easy, especially financially, but I couldn't sit back and watch him just continue to destroy my life even more, or possibly someone else's. Within weeks, I was packed up and I was off to my new place, and I haven't looked back once. I recall my occupational therapist, Debbie, always reminding me that no matter what had happened to me physically, I was still the same Jenny. And that my body may have changed, but me as an individual had not. I started out this journey completely paralyzed from the chest down. I had the ability to move my neck, and I had a flicker in my right shoulder. Today, I now have the muscles in both biceps and both wrists, which is an enormous accomplishment. Some of the tasks that I can do independently consist of writing, eating, brushing my teeth, blow drying and brushing my hair, applying my own makeup, flawlessly, I might add. And I'm totally independent on my computer, just to name a few. I've not hesitated in figuring out how to participate in recreational activities that I enjoyed prior to my accident, such as traveling, hiking, adaptive water skiing, riding Harleys, believe it or not, boating, snowmobiling, jet skiing, and four-wheeling. I tried it all. Over the years, God has blessed me with the opportunity to share my story and inspire more individuals than I could have ever imagined. In 2001, I became Miss Wheelchair Wisconsin, representing the state at the National Miss Wheelchair America pageant. My platform was simple: the consequences of drinking and driving. In turn, I realized that God has blessed me with the ability to express my feelings on paper and the ability to speak in front of an audience, which jump-started my career as a motivational speaker. I have spoken to a countless number of schools, colleges, and universities, as well as correctional institutions, about topics ranging from anything from the consequences of reckless driving, living life with a traumatic injury, unhealthy relationships, to overcoming adversity. I was honored to guest host the television show Discover Wisconsin, highlighting accessible destinations and equipment throughout the state. In 2008, I helped the Washera County chapter of the Ice Age Trail Alliance create an accessible portion of hiking trail on the Bone Lake segment right here in Hancock. I am also the visionary and director of a fashion show called This Is How We Roll, and I started that about 8 years ago. It's a fashion show, fundraiser, and community awareness event. All of my models are wheelchair users, and it's men, women, and children of all ages in wheelchairs rolling the runway for medical research. It brings hope to many, many amazing and deserving individuals overcoming adversity. Due to some of my medical needs I was facing, I moved to Washera County to be closer to my parents and grandparents about 15 years ago. I recall a caregiver inviting me to join them at Washera Community Church, so I started attending on Sundays and participated in a Bible study. I was blessed the moment I met my good friend TJ. I've always respected and looked up to his personal relationship with God. We enjoy worshiping, attending church, and Christian concerts together. We also participated in a few Bible studies. He introduced Celebrate Recovery to me and his dream of starting one in Washera County. I thought it was a great idea, so I'm now on the leadership team here at Crossroads Church. You cannot get, okay, sorry about that. You cannot get through your hurts, habits, and hang-ups without God. When we first started Celebrate Recovery, I had no idea where I fit in the big picture of CR, but God kept bringing me back. I felt if others could see the abusive behavior and destruction alcohol and addiction can have on another person's life, it would encourage them to make the needed changes in their own lives. There's no way anyone could live a fulfilled life in this capacity without having God in their life. I will be the first to admit that this life is hard, and it sucks the majority of the time. A part of me died that day, and the loss is unbearable more often than not. But God has never failed me. He has been there during my darkest days and has carried me the majority of the time. We cannot let our past and adversity define us. So through Celebrate Recovery, I've learned that it doesn't matter what your hurts, habits, and hang-ups are. With the right support system and Jesus, you can overcome anything. When I look back at how my life has changed and the trials and tribulations I have faced, I realize that these obstacles and battle scars I have incurred only makes me who I am today. The more struggles I face, the stronger I become. The accident was a stepping stone for me and has provided me with the courage to overcome adversity and an insight on how precious life really is. It is a privilege that God has given us all, not a right. We all need to work on respecting the value of life and understand that it can all be taken away faster than the blink of an eye. Two of my life verses, I would call them, are Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Luke 17:6. And the Lord answered, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it will obey you. God never promised us life would be easy. He never promised there would be no pain, struggles, loss, or death. He didn't give us a step-by-step handbook, but he did give us the Bible, the commandments, and values to live by. He encourages us to walk He encourages us in our walk by giving us family and friends, people in places like Crossroads Church, this youth group, the Treehouse, to find support and love to turn in times of despair, loss, and death. There's miracles and blessings, stories and strangers, to find us when we need them most. He never said he'd follow our every step and decision we make. What's cool, though, is he did promise his son's sacrifice for us. A promise that no matter what we face, no matter what we fear, may cloud our minds, no matter where we go or how far we stray from him, we will never be alone. He promised to stand by our side and carry us through in every season of brokenness. He would bring us hope, strength, and truth. We are not meant to have perfect, pain-free lives, nor are we supposed to have all the answers or the entirety of our existences figured out. no matter how much our human minds desire. We are not supposed to never make mistakes, mess up, or lose our faith momentarily. This life was not meant to be easy, for then there would be no purpose. God created us in his image to live, to love, to find our individual meaning, and to honor him. To know that we will be challenged, shaken, and exhausted by the weight of the world. He promised we will never be alone. This means that God will always take care of us no matter what challenges or adversities we face in life. When I look back at how my life has changed and the trials and tribulations I have faced, I realize that these obstacles and battle scars I have incurred only make me who I am today, the amazing woman God intended me to be. Thank you.
If anybody has questions, feel free just to raise your hand and you can ask any, whatever questions that you have.
So they dressed your wounds before or after you died in the helicopter?
Well, they assessed everything right there on the scene, and they stabilized me for the helicopter ride. Because once when those helicopters are almost like a mini mobile hospital. So yeah, they just made sure I was breathing and could get on that helicopter and I was off. Thank you.
Anybody else who has questions for Tammy?
I know I saw a couple other ones. Oh, go
Jordan?
ahead.
I heard you went all the way to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Where were you at when the accident happened?
So Mosquito, Wisconsin is where the accident happened, which is basically like a suburb outside of Milwaukee, like 30 minutes, let's say, from Milwaukee is where I grew up. Thank you. Anybody else?
How many were involved in the show that you just put on?
Oh gosh, so we had 44 models this year. Yes, it was. I actually was going to bring the footage along, but we kind of thought that we weren't going to be able to find it. So I'll share it at another time. But yeah, the fashion show was amazing, and we had a lot of excited models and lots of smiles on their faces, and it's pretty cool. Anybody else? I felt like I saw, yes. Hi.
Where is the man now?
Where is the man now? Good question. Well, he's not in jail. So he's living his life freely, and he still drinks and drives. He's a grown man now, obviously, and I don't think a whole lot has changed for him that way. But he still lives in the town that we grew up in. His family actually, he just recently actually sold it, but he owns a nursing home. So it's a family-owned business, and so he's an only child, and yeah, so he just kind of has been living his life. So unfortunately, well, I don't know if it's unfortunate. I shouldn't say it that way, but yeah, we don't talk. I'll say this: I forgave him right I never blamed him for this accident. And I'll tell you why. Obviously he knew better. He was 24 and old enough to know that you're not supposed to be drinking and driving. But I also feel very strongly that he didn't wake up that day and said, you know what, I want to, hurt Jenny. I want to put her in a wheelchair. I'm going to do this, and I don't care what happens to her. I look at it that way because, as you know, forgiveness is something that we all need to do with everything in our life, not something even this big. I mean, just anything in life. We need to forgive each other, and that's what God asks of us. That's very important. So I forgave him right from the beginning, and it was hard. The journey has been hard. Forgiveness is also a tricky thing because I forgave him for that accident, but then afterwards he made all these promises to me. One of them being, let's say, financially, like he was going to build me a wheelchair accessible home so that this life could be a little easier. And those kind of things have been very hurtful because he has the means to help me with some of those little things that could make, medical supplies, like, something as simple as that would be something that would be a great thing to get from him because all of those expenses all add up. What some people don't realize is it's not cheap being in a wheelchair or having a disability. Like, for instance, I just recently had to buy a new vehicle, and it's a minivan, and by the time they do the conversion, I mean, you're looking at like an $80,000-$90,000 investment. That's a lot of money. And then my wheelchair, for instance, this alone was $45,000. And the cost of all of these things it's hard to justify them because you're looking at individuals that sometimes can't afford things like that, or they lost their jobs, so they don't have a way of earning that extra money to pay for those things. Because not only do we have the everyday bills that the rest of the people have, I still have to pay rent, and I still have to, put food on my table and pay my electric bill. But beyond that, now I have to pay for these different medical things, that insurance doesn't cover, or just to better the quality of a person's life. It would be nice if he would offer, to just help with some of those little things because he does have the means to do so.
Thank you, Jenny,
Oh,
so
thank
much.
you.
Jenny, would you be willing to close this? What's that?
Last question.
Oh, go ahead,
Question that, but did he ever get married?
He is married now. Yeah, he got married I think he got married like 5 years ago. So one thing that some people are surprised about, but I actually talk to his mom still. So my fashion show, when I came off the runway, she was one of the first people I saw. So she very much supports me, and she'll send me checks here and there. I think because she feels a sense of responsibility in a way, but yeah, she's actually an amazing lady, really.
Jenny, would you close us in prayer? Just pray
Oh,
for the kids.
Yeah. This happened to you when you were 24? At what age did you come to the Lord?
Well, I always had God in my life. I mean, I was brought up Catholic and, went to church on Sundays and CCD class and First Communion. So I always had God in my life, but I didn't really have a relationship with God until this actually happened to me. And it started off in a weird way because I went to him more, and I don't want to say that I was angry, but I was very confused and I was upset to a degree where it was just like, okay, I get that I'm going to be in a wheelchair. I get this. I can do that, God, but what's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing on this earth? So I grew closer through this hardship that at the time seemed like a horrible thing to happen in my world. And my life is more fulfilled today because I do have a relationship with God. And I couldn't do this without him. I don't think anybody can really go through something like this and live a fulfilled life without God. And I believe that strongly.
Would you close us in prayer then, Jenny?
Sure.
Yeah, Caitlin has a message upstairs.
Oh.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, no, I did. Did she have a question? Or did someone have a question?
Yeah, do you have any kids?
No, I don't.
Are you still able to?
I am, but I'm getting kind of older now that, not that I like to age myself too much, but I most likely won't have children. But if there are any more questions, Pastor, like maybe the kids could even ask, share them with you guys, and I can always answer the other ones too.
We'll definitely have you back again as well.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah. All right.
Let's pray.
So, okay. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us all together here and bringing these young people into this room and just, I pray, Lord, that I've touched at least one heart in this room and that I can be a role model and someone that these kids can look up to and make good choices so that they don't have to go through what I've been suffering through, Lord. You are amazing, and I just thank you so much for this beautiful day that we're having and bringing us all together and being able to share my message with them, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you. You did amazing. Let's give her a hand. So junior high and high school, you're going right up to the youth room, and Caitlin, you can start. I'll be up there in a couple minutes, all right? High school, you guys been amazing, but we're not done yet tonight, so head up to the youth room. Young kids, we're not going to involve right? Yeah.
Bye, guys. Thank you. I don't. Is it?
Yeah. So, you guys, Janice class, you guys can go to the gym and hang out, all right?
I don't want to go on YouTube.
Well, you're already on it now.
I am?
Yeah, you're right in front of it. It's on.
Great. Edit that part out.
I can't.